Welcome back to my channel. My name is Madison, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about procrastination. I am struggling with procrastination so hard right now. It is worse than I've ever experienced it before, and there's probably a lot of things that are contributing to it. Some examples being the pandemic. It is still going in this time, so that is something that is going on. I'm no longer in school, so that is also a contributing factor, as well as I work full-time now, so I work 5 days a week for 8 to 10 hours at this point. So my situation of what I'm used to has changed. Going to school was a big part of like me as my personality or who I was. So not having that anymore has really impacted me and how I want to do things. So I'm gonna break down different ways that I have found myself procrastinating. Maybe you can relate to that as well. It's really impacted me and how many things I'm able to do in a day. And it's really something I need to work on and not fall into, because it happens almost daily. I'm dealing with procrastination. So I'm gonna say the largest contributing factor to my procrastination is the fact that I don't have anybody besides myself telling me when I need to finish something. When I was in school, I had all my professors, I had deadlines, I had to read this book by this day so that we could talk about it in class. I had to write an essay that was due on this day, and it had to be this long, and it would take me this long to write it. I don't have that anymore. It's just me telling me that I need to do something, and me, knowing myself, does not listen to me very well. So it's just something I need to be more accountable with myself, instead of having that outside factor like looming over me and telling me when things need to be done. I need to be more responsible with that for myself, because it's really the only way I will be able to do what I want to do, is being I don't want to say harder on myself, but more but being more accountable with myself, because there's a lot of things that I just don't do, and then I'm like, so the biggest problem with me with my procrastination is the problem of tomorrow. There's always tomorrow to fall back on when things don't get done today. Today, I might not finish something and be like, oh, I can finish it tomorrow. But then tomorrow happens and I don't do it. There's no, again, accountability for myself to do the thing that I said I was going to be doing tomorrow. So the battle with tomorrow is just one that I am just really having a hard time with, especially since I know there are things that I can get done today. Like if I have a chunk of time before I go to work or a chunk of time when I come home from work, I will do all these other things instead of the thing that I actually want to do. So I will scroll through YouTube on my phone and watch a couple videos. I'll go on Reddit. And in my head, I'm like, I should be reading and I should be taking notes. But I just keep going, I keep scrolling, and then I tell myself, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. And then that gives me today the freedom to not do stuff for my podcast and just keep doing the things I was already doing. So watching YouTube videos and scrolling through Reddit. Those are two of my biggest devices right now, Reddit and YouTube. I can't seem to quite crack those two. I'm not really on Facebook anymore. I don't really go on Instagram. I haven't had Snapchat for years, but Reddit and YouTube, those are the two that I just keep going back to. The next way that I procrastinate, I'm not 100% sure how to describe it. I'm probably gonna go with some type of like procrastination denial or worry, something along those lines. But basically where I have the thing I want to do, read my book and take notes, and then I have something else that I could also be doing, like washing dishes or doing the laundry, but then I don't do either of them and I just decide to sit on the couch and watch something on Netflix or watch something on YouTube. And both of those things are still percolating in the back of my head that I need to do them. Like I'm constantly saying, you should be reading, but here I am watching a 8-episode miniseries on Netflix about who knows what, and I just don't do my podcast stuff, and I also don't do the cleaning stuff. So I am just ending up wasting time sitting on the couch doing nothing when there are things that I want to do. And the whole time I'm doing it, it's still in the back of my head, you have to do this thing, but I just choose to ignore it and just keep watching whatever Netflix has made this past week. On a similar note, the third way I have found myself procrastinating is by actually cleaning procrastination. I have found that I will say, tomorrow morning, I have the day off, I'm going to get up, I'm going to eat some breakfast, and then I'm going to sit down at my desk and work on my podcast. But instead, I find myself, I'm like, oh, I'm making breakfast, and then it's like, how can I do my podcast when there's all these dishes that need to be done? So then I'll do the dishes, and then I'm like, oh, but like the floor needs to be vacuumed, so then I start vacuuming the floor. And then I'm like, oh, well, why don't I also make the bed? And then by then it's like 12 o'clock. Not that it takes 4 hours to do dishes, vacuum, and make the bed, but I'll start doing like random other things, or I'll be like, oh, the pantry should be reorganized. When I was going to use the day to work on my podcast, I have now started cleaning my apartment in a kind of chaotic way. It does end up getting kind of chaotic, especially when I decide I need to like clean something out, like the pantry, a drawer, a shelf, and then I just get so involved in that, and then by that time it's 6 o'clock and I just don't want to do anything anymore for the day, and I will again wind up on the couch watching Netflix, having done nothing for my podcast. Another type of procrastination I have found myself falling into is I'll get up and immediately check my phone. I'll scroll through Reddit. I'll start watching a YouTube video the second I wake up, and then I just get sucked into it, and then suddenly 2 hours have gone by and I'm still in bed. And then I just feel like I've already wasted so much time that I can't, there's no time. There's no more time, I tell myself, to do the thing that I want to do, because I've already wasted all this time doing almost nothing, laying in bed, when I should have been doing stuff for my podcast. But I just somehow work it out in my head that it is just, I just don't have time to do it. There's no time. I have to do something else. I can't make the time. So I just end up doing something else. Again, the couch, Netflix. We are very close. And then I guess that leads me into the last way I found myself procrastinating is I'll do this thing where I'll start watching a show. I'll start watching a show on Netflix that is, I don't know, let's take Gilmore Girls. I've watched that show 3 times already, all the way through. I started watching it again. And I was like, as soon as I'm done rewatching this, I'm not gonna start another show on Netflix. As soon as I finished that show, I immediately started another show on Netflix. And it starts out just being a cycle of, as soon as I'm done with this show, I'm not going to start another show, and I'm just going to work on my podcast. And it just ends up becoming this cycle of me just being like, I need to finish this show so that I have time to do this thing. But then as soon as I finish that show, maybe like there'll be like a day or 2 of gap where I'm like, I'm really gonna focus on my podcast. But then I will sit on the couch and be like, oh, look at this, perfect, a TV show that has 12 seasons, just what I was looking for. And I will start watching that instead of doing my podcast. And I need to stop that. It is so hard to stop procrastinating, and it is just something I am going to have to deal with and work through for the time being. I do also think I am experiencing a little bit of burnout just from everything that has happened this past year and a half. I graduated during the middle of the pandemic. My last semester of school was entirely online, which is not something I really wanted to do. I wanted to go on campus and experience that. So I've been dealing with that. I work in retail, and that was absolutely bonkers, like the first 6 months of the pandemic. And now it's getting to be Christmas time. Well, Christmas time in retail. I know it's only August or September. September time. Christmas in retail starts like in September, and it is the busiest time of the year. And I've had to take on more responsibilities at work these last couple weeks, and it's been a lot of stuff going on. And a lot of times I'll come home from work and I don't want to do anything. But I know if I want this to be my job, I have to work through that and just find a way for myself to just sit down and do it. Because once I start doing it, I don't have a problem like doing the work. Like I don't have a problem sitting here for 3 hours and reading and taking notes if I've already sat down and started taking notes. It's just the sitting down and doing it part of it. So I will be working on that, and maybe I'll update you along the way. I am going to be trying different ways to stop procrastinating. I have tried things in the past. I have that thing on my phone where I like limit my internet use to like however many minutes, like a half hour. It's so easy just to hit ignore limit. I'm sure some of you guys have had the same thing, but it is just something that I just can't get past procrastinating. And it's something I want to get past, but it's really hard to make yourself do something when you're also the one who's procrastinating. So it's a internal battle that hopefully I will the part of me that wants to get things done will prevail, and the procrastinator in me will have to just lay low for the time being. So we shall see how this goes. But with that, that brings me to the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!